It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutch. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague, a man who thinks eating pretzels 2 seconds before we start the show is a good idea, Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
All that's going to inspire me to do. You getting old?
Oh, yeah, because that's what we need to do, is people listen to you talking with a mouthful of pretzel. Dutton,
It's not full.
It's not full, no. I've been away, but I'm back. You did a brilliant show with Josh Norris, which was absolutely fantastic. We're back on the division previews. And
I want to talk more about Bake Off.
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, exactly.
Ending a podcast with, say, on your marks, get set, Bake tops anything we've ever done together.
Exactly, it definitely does. Doesn't it? Definitely does. And Bake Off already moving the last season's Bake Off Champions show from a Wednesday to a Thursday due to fear. Oh God, I can't believe we're doing this again. I've gone gangster because we're doing the dirty South, as they say in A-Town.
Do they?
I don't know. I thought it was quite cool. So we got
be whiter.
Be white. I don't think I can be, to be honest. I've tried. I tried to be. I've been in Italy. I tried to be pinker. It went well. Like, yeah, I look like a drumstick. We go in AFC South and NFC South this week, Dutton. Usual fare. Let's talk about the one big thing. We'll give you a fantasy darling and a fantasy loser, and then we'll talk about their over under and see what we think.
Listeners of a considerable vintage will know that I did make a vow about one of these 8 teams we'll discuss. I'm not going to say any more, but it may come back to you as we approach them.
It may also suggest that I think Neil's going to break it, but that's just me. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way I feel. So let's get on.
Good. These pretzels are absolutely fantastic.
Do not eat another pretzel because nobody will listen because all you can hear is you crunching, you absolute pleb. Let's get on with the show and let's talk about the Houston Texans, Dutton. And Dutton, I guess the one big thing we've got is, the question on the Houston Texans is, are they trying to disprove the myth that you need a quarterback to win? They've won 27 games in the past 3 years under B.O.B. with absolute tosh quarterbacks. The question is Tom Savage real, or will Deshaun Watson, Freudian slip there, Deshaun Watson lead this team to their 9 wins this year?
Judging most by what you see, there is no reason at all why Tom Savage should start ahead of Deshaun Watson. You can say, yes, what he did in pre-season. Oh, he wasn't playing with the starters. Yeah, that's lovely. But Tom Savage was playing with the starters, and he looked bloody awful. My God, man, let the ball go. It's literally, how you see like comedies where people are learning to dance and they're looking down and they're watching where their feet go? That's Tom Savage playing quarterback. Throw the damn ball when you see a receiver. Stop looking at your feet. He will kill this team. As you say, they're set up. I mean, they've lost Will Fuller. DeAndre Hopkins is now probably sitting and looking at, and saying, why didn't the Rams call me, instead of Sammy Watkins, to get me away from these idiots who are going to kill me. Defense, we know, is going to be good. Ground game should be good. They've got plenty of options. They're similar to how the other team in this division, or one of the other teams in this division, they're being held hostage by their quarterback if they go with Tom Savage. Can't do it. Can't win with them.
I can't. Thanks for that, Mike Singletary. I look at it and I'm with you, Dutton, 100%. You look and it's only one pre-season game. You're like, this isn't going to happen. So let's get Deshaun in. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a. And I hate these phraseologies. Like, he's a winner, but he won the national title against Alabama, and the year before he got to the national title game. This shouldn't be underestimated. Like, Clemson aren't a juggernaut. They've been good over the past 5 or 6 years, and he's been a major force in that. They've got a fantastic defense. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the hope that everyone should have is, if you like watching defense, which I do, is that we see J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney together more. DeAndre Hopkins is the new Andre Johnson because he's not allowed a good quarterback. I don't know why, but the gods of fantasy have decreed it so. B.O.B. is a decent coach, actually probably better than decent. But the problem is they need to get that quarterback and they need Deshaun Watson to work. Because if he does, Dutton, if he does work, they could be the Cowboys last year. And let's be brutally honest about this. With an infinitely better defense. So they could, we've talked a multitude of AFC teams already. The AFC is pretty bang average with the exception of the New England Patriots. The Texans have a chance to be one of those other teams with the Raiders. Do you know what I mean? They've got a chance, but they need the quarterback to hit. And the question is, will it?
Yeah, Bill O'Brien says, that Deshaun Watson is the most advanced rookie he's been around in the NFL. Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you there, Bill. What rookies have you been around in the NFL that did anything? You were Tom Brady's quarterback coach, for God's sake. I'm pretty certain that Brian O'Connell, or whatever his name was, these people were not wowing you. Tom Savage is another one you've been around. Wow. The bar is not set particularly high for Deshaun Watson to be the best rookie quarterback you've been around, mate. And we've seen you don't know how to play the quarterback position in the NFL. Literally, I play MLB The Show. I change my pitcher with less regularity than Bill O'Brien changes his quarterback.
Loves a quarterback swap, loves a quarterback swap. We've talked about how garbage the quarterback position could be with Tom Savage, but we always talk about who the fantasy darling is going to be on the Houston Texans, so please do tell me who it's going to be.
No,
well, it's no surprise it's DeAndre Hopkins, but that's just because, volume-wise, he should get he'll get a bulk of the targets. I don't know whether they'll score any touchdowns. This team, does like to run the ball. I think they'll do that more in the red zone. They've also got, CJ Fedora-Wardowitz.
Great name.
If there was a team that really should have traded for Jordan Matthews, it wasn't the Bills, it was the Houston Texans, even if Will Fuller hadn't gone down. So I think Hopkins is the best of an ordinary bunch.
Speaking of ordinary, Dutton, there's darlings everywhere, but there's got to be losers in this world, and there's two of them. Look at each other in the camera, and hopefully you'll look at me when I press this sounder so you know when it's finished. Who is the fantasy loser?
Well, in my notes when I first compiled this, when we were supposed to do this 300 years ago, I did put Will Fuller because he had 2 100-yard games to start his NFL career, and I don't think he went over 60 after that. He's obviously not going to be playing the whole season, but if people are thinking, oh, there's a late-round dart throw when he comes back, no, take the dart and stick it in your eye. That'll be more valuable to you. Don't worry about him. Get someone else.
Get someone else done. No bad news for Will Fuller fans. Notre Dame, watch out, Dutton, they're coming for you. Over-under for the Houston Texans, Dutton, is 8.5. Home games against the Chiefs, the Browns, the Cardinals, the 49ers and the Steelers. Not too bad, to be honest. And road games against the Bengals, the Pats, the Seahawks, the Rams and the Ravens. 8.5, Dutton, what say you?
I'm going to take the over. Not a particularly hard over, but I do think, they have the winning pedigree in this division. There is, the Titans are, of course, the up-and-coming force. Don't know about the Colts, because, my God, do they need Andrew Luck to be healthy. We'll get to them, obviously, in a minute. Because if they start one game with Scott Tolzien at quarterback, they're screwed. They're not exciting. They're basically a Volvo. They're not exciting, but you can depend on them. Their defense and ground game are going to have to carry them, because if they go in with Tom Savage, they're going to be leaving an awful lot of miracles for Deshaun Watson to do potentially. So they have to rely on old school methods of winning football games.
I look at the teams and I think this is one of the teams with the biggest swings, I think, from like winning to losing. I could see them winning 6 games, and I could actually see them winning 12. There's that kind of big swing. What they get out of quarterback is a big thing, and the question is, when is Deshaun Watson going to play? I've got this horrible feeling it won't be till week 4. If that's the case, they're probably going to finish at best 9-7, but more likely 8-8. I would probably take a slight under, but would not be surprised if they won the division.
And can I mention my, I think interesting fact about the Texans?
Go for it.
They still have on their roster every single first-round pick they've made since 2008.
And do you know what that proves?
The draft's a crapshoot.
Yeah. It means they've had good players, but obviously not good enough players to win the Super Bowl. And none of those first-round draft picks are a quarterback who is a franchise-changing person. Next team, Dutton. Aforementioned Indianapolis Colts. And you've hit the nail on the head, Dutton. It's the easiest one big thing question we'll have. Does the whole season revolve around the fitness of Andrew Luck?
Absolutely. The defense is iffy. Their second stringers were torched by Jake Rudock. It's Ruddock, mate. Your name's Ruddock. And my boy Kenny Golladay on Sunday. The first team offense didn't look hot, but that's because Scott Tolzien is a terrible quarterback. Phil Walker came in. He looked decent, but he's not Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck can raise the talent level to an acceptable degree if he's fit and healthy. The fact he isn't worries me. And it's when it says, I just haven't thrown since January, but I'm not worried. That's your job, mate. It's like a Formula One driver saying, I haven't driven for 2 years, but it doesn't bother me. I'd rather hope it would. Andrew, actually. I'm going to have to move these pretzels, by the way.
Why you're moving them, what I don't understand about it is there's no real timeline. I mean, did you hear Jim Irsay's comments?
I thought he was high.
There's a high. It's not going to get slandered. There's a high possibility he was. I looked at it. He said he won't be ready for the first game, but he'll be ready for the start of the season. That's the first game. I'm confused here.
Yeah, it's not the homecoming event. It's not like a whole week. It's the first game is the start of the season.
Yeah.
Pratt.
Scott Tolzien's not going to work. And
no.
The Indianapolis Colts have done this forever, and it's not something I disagree with. Like, backup quarterbacks are for holding clipboards and being mates with the dead good quarterback. But the problem is with that is, if your dead good quarterback goes down, there's a high possibility you're going to be 1-15.
I always think, the classic Tom Moore quote. Why don't you give some of Peyton's backups practice snaps? Because if Peyton goes down, we're effed, and we don't practice effed, which is a good story. But you still need someone competent to come in. And the Colts are not alone. The Colts are not alone in this.
So do you, though? If you play devil's advocate, do you? So, like, they're saying their roster is either we win with Andrew Luck or we're garbage. We can't get around it. This is how our roster is designed. So, if that's how your roster is designed, you may as well have me and you backup quarterback because it won't make any difference.
The ideal is to get a quarterback who you think he could get us through 2 games. Not one who, if we lost him, our plans don't change at all. Of course they will. If you've got a franchise quarterback, they're going to drop because there's so few of them. But if you can have someone like... The classic example is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Look what he does in relief compared to what he does as a starter. Nick Foles can win you 2 games. Colt McCoy can win you 2 games, for God's sake.
1 in Dallas.
Yeah. Scott Tolzien can't. And the damage he could do in those 2 games, my God... You've seen what happens when an offense doesn't work and a supposed skillful player loses interest. Yes, Todd Gurley, I am talking to you. It's not all your offensive line's fault. You need to be bothered. You send Scott Tolzien with 2 games and you lose them both. You're done.
Yeah, this division's going to be tight. It always is. And Andrew Luck needs to be fit. Like, I don't know what they need to do. Maybe they need to get some of them pills that Jim Irsay was popping when he did that interview and get them into Andrew Luck. And make sure he doesn't fail a medical. I looked on, and we're talking all about Andrew Luck, but we need to talk fantasy on the Indianapolis Colts. And my question is, without Andrew Luck or with Andrew Luck, who's the fantasy darling?
Hello, darling.
Well, it's T.Y. Hilton, because he's the best player other than Andrew Luck. Obviously, his success is tied to Luck. I did have a few weeks ago, when we did my rankings, Andrew Luck was my QB1. That has changed dramatically. No reason to explain that. T.Y. Hilton basically would have to change his role. He couldn't be, the guy. He wouldn't be the deep shot guy. But he has shown that he can, be adapted. He can work close to the line of scrimmage. Be a nice little dump off option for who was it back in the day? Matt Hasselbeck and Ryan Lindley and Josh Freeman. Oh God. Yeah, but it's T.Y. Hilton for me. Obviously assuming Andrew Luck is fit to a degree.
The problem is, Dutton, T.Y. Hilton's a darling, but there's going to be losers on this team, and I'm interested from you to know who they are.
It's the fella on the other side, T.Y. Hilton, Dante Moncrief. Yeah. Scores touchdowns. He has gone over 70 receiving yards in 5 of 44 games. Take the unsustainable touchdown rate away, and he has absolute nothing. He's not alone. The other receivers on this team, I think Philip Dorsett is a bust. I think he's shown that he was an absolute waste of time. Kamar Aiken is decent, but my thoughts on wide receivers not wearing real numbers. Even though it's pre-season, why are you wearing one? Chester Rogers, seriously? We take the piss out of Jack Doyle for his name, but Chester Rogers, that's not a name. Are you a band leader? I don't know. No, it's T.Y. Hilton, and then you've got Doyle and Swope and Frank Gore. They're going to be steady. The rest of them are not worth the time or effort to draft.
T.Y. Hilton, Dante Moncrief, they're the darling and the loser. The over-under, Dutton, at the moment, according to betting sites that I'm looking at, is off the board because no one knows when Andrew Luck's going to come back. Not surprising, really. I guess the home games against the Cards, the Browns, the 49ers, the Steelers and the Broncos. Road games against the Rams, the Seahawks, the Bengals, the Bills and the Ravens. Let's give them 8, Dutton. Are they going to go over 8 or under 8?
I'll give them 8. I counted there in the not including the games that in the division. I think I can get them another 4 wins, of those opponents, and it's all down to whether Luck's fit. If he's fit, then maybe they could get to 9, 10. If he's not, you just have to hope they could scrape to 8. But the GM is safe because he's basically inherited an absolute mess. But this is it for Bagana.
This is a secretly awful roster, and it's not that secret anymore. Obviously, if they fired their GM, I don't see them win. Like if Andrew Luck misses 2 games, they lose those 2 games. What is he gonna? Is he gonna go like 8-6 the rest of the way? 9 and 5. I just don't see it, Don.
I
look, and these are a bang average team that are held together with Andrew Luck and sticky tape.
It was similar in 2012. When he came in, they were the worst team in football the year before, and he got them to the playoffs. He is that good, but the rest of them, if he's not at 100%, they're not meeting him halfway. He can't do it by himself.
Well, we saw that last year, don't he? Wasn't fit and he went good. Do you know what I mean? We saw that last year. When he was reasonably fit, he played reasonably well. When he wasn't fit, he was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a chance to be the 4th worst team in this league. That is tough, because the team we're going to talk about next own that position. And that is everybody's favourite UK team, Jacksonville Jaguars, done. And the one big thing for them is they were 8-8 in 2010. Can anyone remember what they were doing in 2010? Have a think about it. They haven't won more than 6 games since. Think about that. That is a lot of years of absolute trash. So the question is, Dutton, for Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin et al., what does success look like? He doesn't know. He's unable to talk about them. Of course, the reason Neil is not speaking is Neil is not talking about the Jaguars. This is going to be really interesting. He's refusing to talk. He's literally shaking his head. So you haven't got a fantasy darling? You haven't got a fancy loser? No. I'm going to talk about them. Blake Bortles is trash. This experiment, if it's an experiment, whatever it is, needs to end. Now, if they're deliberately being rubbish to allow them to get a quarterback, I see where you're coming from. But keep Blake Bortles in. If anyone's seen the video that was posted yesterday of A-Rob shouting, "Keep that effing ball in play, Blake." Magic, by the way. That's one of them things that needs to happen. Over-under is 5.5. I can't see them winning 5.5 games. I see them under. I see it 4-12. They need to bottom out again, and it's like, I can't believe I'm saying this again. You know, who they got home games against? Ravens, Rams, Bengals, Chargers, Seahawks. You know, yeah, it's not going to work. They stink, and while they stink, fantasy guru, expert, rotoviz, number fire, and the rest refuse to talk about them. Let's not talk about them. Let's get on to a team we do want to talk about, and we want to talk about them hard and a lot, and that is the Tennessee Titans, done. And the one big thing is it the Titans, not the Raiders, who are the biggest challenge to the Pats in the AFC this year?
I'll talk about the other team when they do something worthy of my attention.
Of course, Neil.
And I did say this, so I'm a man of my word. I love the Titans this year. I think offensively they've garnered a receiving core that if they gave Marcus Mariota a pencil and asked him to draw it up, he couldn't do it better. He's got, really good receivers. Not superstars, but Rashard Matthews is good in the red zone. Eric Decker owns the red zone. Delaney Walker has got his protege now, Jonnu Smith, to train. They've got DeMarco Murray, who's shown he's a workhorse, and is still effective. Idiot. They've got a good backup running back, and Mariota is bloody good at playing quarterback. So I just think the defense has got a bit better. They've got a few nice pieces they've added to it, especially in the secondary, because they needed it, because they got burned on the back end last year, and that would have peaked Dick LeBeau. This team can win this division if they don't get into too many shootouts, because defensively they're not quite there yet that they can afford to hang 35 on everyone every week. But this team's going places.
They need the defense to be better, and they've tried to address it with the draft. Whether that works or not, we'll find out. Me and Neil are Team Mariota in that conversation, and we'll talk about the other guy down in South Florida later, who we like, but we like Mariota better. It warms my heart for Dutton to say nice things about DeMarco Murray, because it really, really annoys him. So that's why I like it to happen, and things like that cheer me up. They've got a good team. They need, as you said, to keep away from the shootouts. Can you keep 5, 6, 7 teams to under 21 points? That's your job, because you should score 28 every week, Tennessee, without any trouble whatsoever. The Mariota not having an interception in the red zone, that'll end this season. Got to, because it's just it's a luck thing. It's not, when I say it's not, it's talent that he hasn't thrown one, but it's also a bit of luck as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to disappear. So don't worry about that. Probably you'd prefer it to go sooner rather than later, because otherwise it'll happen in a playoff game. Eric Decker, great signing, love it. Get the Jets hand off, cast off, good idea. This is a good team, Dutton. I think this is one everyone should be keeping an eye on. This could be the waxing Lyrical team of the year.
I just wish they had a better head coach.
Yeah. But to be fair to Maki, he did well last year, Dutton. I agree with you. When if anyone wants to go back, when we did these reviews last year, Dutton absolutely tore Mike Malarkey an absolute new backside. To
be fair though, we did have company, because we did have Ray Summerlin on as well.
We did, but Dutton, I'm sure Ray will say he better than advertised. It's not great. Do we've all, I think me and you have got these type of coaches, maybe a little bit better, but you know what I mean? You're not gonna put your money on them, but they're all right. Do you know what I mean? You're not gonna slag them off too much, but they're not Bill Belichick. It's one of them things.
Yeah.
So, what I will say is that there was silence on the Jaguars. There was Blair on the Indianapolis Colts, but I'm sensing a lot of love for Fantasy Darling with the Tennessee Titans. So hit me with who you think that the Fantasy Darling will be.
Hello, darling.
Well, a lot of the players we've mentioned, they're not top-tier talents. They're going to chip in. Rashard Matthews is probably going to be a borderline wide receiver 3-2. Eric Decker's probably going to be touchdown dependent, but again, can push 3-2. The one person they can really bank on because of how they're going to do, it's DeMarco Murray. He showed last year he's still a workhorse. He's still bloody good in the passing game, so he's going to be on the field. He's going to get most of the carries. Probably going to work in the other guy a little bit. But he's still the guy who I would expect to score the most fantasy points on the Titans, and he's certainly worthy if you want to go that direction in the draft. Late first, top of the second, you want to get a running back. Volume-wise, you've got to get him.
We do love a majority of the Titans, but some of them you're just not going to like, don't. So my interesting question to you is, in your 57 fantasy drafts, who will you be avoiding?
This is not a reflection on his talent. It's a reflection on how much he'd have to cost to get a backup, which is what he is. Derrick Henry is not in a committee. He is not time-sharing with DeMarco Murray. He is his backup. He may get more carries than he did last year, but he's not taking this job. He will next year when they can get rid of DeMarco Murray for very little money. It's very little hardship. Derrick Henry is a beast. Seriously, imagine how much easier the life would be for the Dallas Cowboys if they'd taken Jalen Ramsey in the first and Derrick Henry in the second. How much better life would be. How much easier, how much less controversial, but I'm sure they'd find it some other way. I like Henry, certainly in dynasty leagues. If you can get him, great, keep him. But I've seen him going in the 5th round. He's a backup. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think at the start of last season there was a concept that it was going to be like a committee, wasn't it? But I think DeMarco just blew that out the water early doors, and it never became one. So I'm not sure why it would become one now. So I'm with you on Derrick Henry. Hold fire. I think an interesting point by Dutton to get. If you're looking dynasty, go there. But for this year, I'm not too sure. Over under Dutton is 8.5. Home games. This for me. I've got it in capital letters. Dutton exclamation mark. So I must mean it. Week 1 at home to the Oakland Raiders. #must watch. I'm sure Sky Sports and CBS and Fox will balls this up for the UK and we'll get some trash game, but we should get this game. They also play at home the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Bengals and the Rams. They've got road games against the Dolphins, the Browns, the Steelers, the Cardinals and the 49ers. The Cards and the 49ers are back-to-back on the West Coast, just for interest. Over-under is at 8.5. Don't want to say you.
I'm going to go over. I think this is a 10-win team at least. If, and say they can go by if they can keep to the script that got them here last year, but just finish the job. Shootouts are not what this team wants. I mean, I'm sure fantasy-wise you want Eric Decker and Rashard Matthews and Corey Davis. If he gets fit, you want the ball. You want an awful lot of balls in the air. No, that's not how this team's going to get it done. Run the ball, run it some more, and mix in Mariota with a run as well, and hope the defense can live up to their end of the bargain. But it's their year. I'm sorry, Adam Foxcroft. And I'm sorry, Ray, but I'm on board with this team.
11-5 done. And winning the division. Sorry Adam, sorry Ray, but sometimes we have to upset some people, and we're going to upset Tennessee Titan fans this year because we are all in.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good team, and that Week 1 matchup with the Raiders is an absolute must-watch. That's the AFC South. Let's move on to the NFC South. And last year's Super Bowl losers, the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know if you can call them losers. I don't,
Jokers?
Super Bowl exploders, Super Bowl internal combustors, the Atlanta Falcons. And my one big question on this, which now seems ironic as we're talking about it, can they repeat the success of last year? Let's say for, 18 and a half games.
Well, there's an awful lot of continuity. Got most of the band back, as it were. The one big loss, obviously, is Kyle Shanahan. But Steve Sarkisian is something of a wild card. We just don't know. He's never coached in the NFL, let alone ran an offense in the NFL. They've said they want to keep most of the same plays. They want to get Julio Jones more involved in the red zone. I'm thinking at this stage of the game, he either would have been or he isn't. It's a bit late for that leopard to change his spots. They gave Devonta Freeman a league best contract for a running back, the exact same contract that LaDainian Tomlinson got 10 years ago, whenever it was. So that's inflation for you. They're a high-powered offense. It's an improving defense. It's a hell of a hangover to get over, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive hangover, Dalton. Like, if we look at the Panthers from the same division 2 years earlier, you know, they didn't get over it last year. They just didn't. And I don't know how you do. And they do have a lot of continuity, and that's a good thing. And I do think it will hold them in good stead. But, you know, Sark is a wild card. And, you know, we can put inverted commas or comedy jokes around how we're going to say wild cards and not involve alcohol, and we'll do that. But what I'm saying is, I just don't know what you're going to get because he's never coached in the NFL. And when he's coached in college, we actually are not 100% sure he's any good at that either. So it's a little bit... They've got to give it to Matt Ryan. It's got to be Matt Ryan's team, and Matt's got to take more responsibility. How much of that playbook can they keep from Kyle Shanahan? I don't know, but they need to keep as much as possible. Get it to Freeman, get it to Gabriel, get it to Sanu for one purpose, so you can feed Julio Jones as much as possible. I know you love Odell Beckham Jr., and we've all seen those tweets and GIFs and videos, and there's a reason you love him. My fear is his quarterback's garbage. And it's not a fear, because I hate the New York Giants, so it's not a fear for me, it's a prayer. Matt Ryan is not that. He is better. And Julio Jones is a centaur. So while you can quite comfortably pick OBJ1, I'll be picking Julio Jones in our draft on September 4th, and I'll be happy with it.
As long as you're happy.
On that, Dutton, I'm guessing, but I don't know, and you're going to tell me right now, who is the fancy darling for the Atlanta Falcons?
Hello, darling.
It's Julio Jones.
Woo! Centaur!
Volume-wise, he's going to get the majority of the targets. He's going to get an awful lot of yards. His targets went down last year because he saw 200 targets the year before. So his targets were down, his yards were down, but he was bloody efficient with it because he wasn't peppered with targets. It was an improved quality of target. We're going to get to them now, but this is, I suppose, the hope with Mike Evans. He's not going to get 180, 190 targets. He might get 160, but they'll be bloody good ones. Julio's a beast, as we know, and as I said, I love Julio. I mean, anyone who's basically walking around on an artificial foot deserves my respect and admiration, but he doesn't score enough touchdowns to get him past Odell Beckham for me. That said, not very many people do. So if I can't get Odell Beckham and Julio were to fall to me, I don't even think I'd weep.
I think it's one of them things, don't I? I think you're right, and you hit the nail on the head. Like last year, there was less targets, but it was better. And that's the genius of Kyle Shanahan, so to speak. And that's what Sarkisian's got to do. Spread that ball out to get Julio the ball. That's what you've got to do with this team. And as we talk about, and we'll just bring it up again, fancy darling and fancy loser when we do these division previews doesn't have to be clever. You don't have to think outside the box in this. First round picks are fine. You don't have to find you know 13th round draft pick who's going to get you all these points. If Julio Jones is on the board and you're picking third, pick effing Julio Jones.
Yeah. Don't be clever.
Don't be a hero. Some people, however, will pick some other players and they will not work out. We're going to try and help them. Tell me the fancy loser on the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, it's a bit hard.
Go on, you can carry on now. I've stopped it.
I hate this. It was so much better with Josh. It's not really a loser because I don't hate his prospects this season. I just think people are going slightly crackers over what Tevin Coleman can do, considering, again, this is a partnership, but it's not an equal partnership. His touchdown rate last year was phenomenal, and it was also unsustainable. He's a Devonta Freeman injury away from being a true workhorse back. Yeah, that's great, but by himself, at tops, he's a running back 3/2. He's not going to get you any more than that over the course of a season. I mean, his ADP, I say he's going similar to Derrick Henry. I would take Tevin Coleman over Derrick Henry at that ADP because at least Coleman has a role, whereas Derrick Henry needs injuries or loss of form. So he's a loser, but it's not a capital L.
This is one of them things, Dutton, where you need to strip away fantasy from reality. Tevin Coleman is part of the offense and will be a major part of that offense. The thing is, though, he is not fantasy worthy. That's not an issue. That's just life. Over-under on the Atlanta Falcons, Dutton, is 10.5, which is a big number. Home games against the Packers, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Cowboys and the Vikings. Road games against the Bears, the Lions, the Pats, the Jets and the Seahawks. Scheduling quirk. All of those games are done by mid-November, Dutton. So this Dome team doesn't really play a winter game. Over-under's 10.5.
14 Super Bowl losers have not made the playoffs the year later. It's going to be 15. This is 8-8. Big regression. Because I don't see them repeating what they did last year. I think, don't be wrong, on offense, I think they'll have weeks where they'll put up video game numbers. But I just think it's a psychological thing. And the fact that they keep talking about it themselves, they're trying to own it. They're trying to say, no, it's not a problem that we blew a 25-point lead. It is a problem because you keep talking about it. The great thing about the NFL and sport in general, especially when there's no such thing as relegation, is every season is a new season. It's a new event. Stop talking about it. That's not ownership. That's paranoia.
Yeah, embrace it and walk on for me. Embrace it and walk on. It's a 10-6 team. I think they've got a chance to be good. Good, not great. I think last season was the season he should have won the Super Bowl, Dutton. And with the exception of, probably the New England Patriots or, the Manning Colts, you don't get many opportunities. You just got to take that one. And they didn't take it. And, they can talk about it until they're blue in the face. And to be honest, they are. And that clock with the 28-3 things just in Dan Quinn's office, proper weird. What they will need to be this year, sound really weird, and we haven't talked about it, is a defensive team. They have the pieces in place to have a really good defense. I want to say really good. I'm not saying the 85 Bears, but they don't need to score as many points as they did last year because the defense will be better. So I think they win, and I think they win more games, and I think they got a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they win the division, because it's an odd numbered year, so that means we have to love a different team for that. But I think they're better than 8-8. Let's move on, Dutton, to the Carolina Panthers, the Super Bowl losers from a couple of years previous. And the one big question is, Dutton, and I think it's the major question on the Carolina Panthers, is Christian McCaffrey. Is he the game changer that offense needs?
I've just realised, by the way, that I got that stat wrong. It's Super Bowl losers who missed the playoffs the next year. Of the 14, they are perfect 14 for 14 who returned to the playoffs the year later. So that ties in with the Carolina Panthers.
And here we go. And what does Christian McCaffrey do to get them back to the playoffs then?
He gives them some variety because obviously a running back they've had the last couple of years, it's been Jonathan Stewart, who we know what Jay Stew is. I mean, he scored a lot of touchdowns last year, but didn't do an awful lot else. Didn't have as many rushing yards as he had the year before. He's getting nicked up. I think the plan is still for Jonathan Stewart to start, but it will be a mixing in with McCaffrey. Jonathan Stewart's not going to catch passes, we know this. But I don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a workhorse in his rookie season. But I do think that, it's a change of emphasis. He's a weapon that this team hasn't had, because what they've done in the past is run it with Stewart, run it with Cam, take deep shots to either Ted Ginn, who's taken his out-of-bounds running to New Orleans, or the big buggers, Benjamin, Funchess, Greg Olsen. They might want to go for a little bit more, get the ball out of Cam's hand quickly. So that, brings Greg Olsen, is going to have to come back a little bit, work the deeper routes, the shallower routes. Christian McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel are there. It's a change of emphasis. It's just a question of... See, I don't think that's the big question. The big question is, does Cam Newton have the ability to become Ben Roethlisberger this stage in his career? Not be the, I'm taking off myself, I'm going to... Is it, no. Hang in, get the ball out. I don't know.
I think McCaffrey helps with that though, Dutton, because it gives him someone to pass it short to, and it allows space to occur. It's all NFL's all about space on matchup, and McCaffrey can be that matchup nightmare. But he's had Benjamin and Funchess. They tried to deal with this, and they just bought lads who can pull up trees or eat them. I don't know. They're both massive, but they're not great at catching. So I don't see that working. Greg Olsen's a beast. We love Greg Olsen. And I think McCaffrey can be a game changer. I don't want Cam Newton to be Tom Brady. I want Cam Newton to be Cam Newton. But I want him to be protected better, and that's an offensive line issue. And I also want him to be cleverer and not be so gung-ho with what he's trying to do. And I think McCaffrey allows that kind of situation to happen, Dutton. I really do. And I hope it does, because I for one think the league is better with players like Cam Newton in it, and I don't want him getting smashed in the first game like he did in Denver, because for me that was the end of their season, because the referees had decided for some unknown reason they weren't going to protect him. Cam knew he wasn't going to be protected, and the season kind of devolved into madness after that.
I mean, his rushing attempts were down, his rushing yards were down, and his rushing touchdown were down. Obviously they were going to be. He was coming off a historic season for his type of player. But you almost get to the sense that the team were thinking, there's no point designing runs for him, because if he gets hit, we're gaining, 5 yards but losing them, because we're not going to get the flag. Exactly. So, yeah, I think... But then that comes down again is, well, are you coaching scared? I mean, I don't really... a couple of good seasons, yes, but ultimately, this is not the best coach in the Shula family who's running their offense, is it? So, I don't know. I mean, but just off the field, this team's weird. I mean, anyone over 30 is getting paid now because Marty Herney's back in town. So
let's get on to fantasy and let's look. We've never really been high on the Panthers from a fantasy point of view, but you're going to have to tell us who one of their fantasy darlings is going to be.
Hello, darling.
If only everything in life was as reliable as Greg Olsen. The only tight end in NFL history with 3 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. I wrote an article actually for Number Fire, one of my first. Thank you. Yeah. It was about whether he could still be classed as an elite tight end. Yes, he can. His schedule this year is incredibly inviting for teams who can't defend against tight ends. We've seen that he's going to be a favourite of Cam. I mean, I think the lowest target share he's had over the last few years is 22%. There are some wide receivers who are number 1 and 2 on their teams who don't see 22% of their targets. He's not a big touchdown scorer, but he's good for 5 or 6, 980, 1,000 yards. Yeah, I think for where he's going, I think you don't have to reach for Jordan Reed, who, I'm sorry, he worries me. He's a ticking time bomb. And he's got a higher upside in terms of touchdowns than Travis Kelce, but I think Kelce will obviously see more volume. But Olsen, for where he's going, I think 6th round in standard leagues. Yeah, okay.
I think he's magic, Dutton, magic. And congratulations on the Number 5 thing. Well done, because you haven't got enough jobs. No,
I had 10 minutes I could squeeze in.
Fantastic, Dutton. I suppose we're going to get onto the fancy loser, and I'm going to press the button now, and you're not going to talk for 5 seconds, and then you're going to tell me which one in the coin flip of Devin Funchess or Kelvin Benjamin you decided to absolutely bury.
I'm going to take the man who needed a national championship game so he could get to 1,000 yards in his final college season. Kelvin Benjamin.
That man is Kelvin Benjamin for the FSU.
Yeah, not dominant. Not, particularly productive. Catch rate of hovering around 50%. So you're telling me that in his career there is more chance of Tom Brady reaching a Super Bowl than there is of Kelvin Benjamin catching a pass? That's basically the way the percentages are working. It's frightening. Yeah, he looked great in pre-season. Yeah, he slimmed down. He had to. He was the size of a house. He was running like an offensive lineman. I've seen milk turn faster. I've seen milk turn back faster. He may score touchdowns. He's not a high volume guy. He's not a percentages person. Don't rate him. Think this offense is outside of Greg Olsen, the pass catchers are going to muddle themselves up. With Samuel, with Devin Funchess, they haven't got Ted Ginn anymore. Running backs, Greg Olsen, Cam, wide receivers, let someone else take him.
Over under for the Carolina Panthers, Dutton. It's a big 9.5, really, when you think about it. When we talked, we're not convinced. The home games against the Bills, your Philadelphia Eagles, the Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Packers. Road games against the 49ers, the Pats, the Lions, the Bears, and the Jets. Tasty last couple there, by the way. 9.5 is the number, Dutton. What say you?
I'm going to take over. I'm going to take the over. I think this is 10 wins. I think they get back on track. Still a good defense. Obviously, it's going to have some change there. They lost Sean McDermott, but Ron Rivera has got an imprint on this team's defense anyway. It's a nice schedule, and having that bad season can occasionally help. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys how having a fourth place schedule does you the next season. And yeah, as I say, I think that if they're smarter with how Cam plays, how they use Cam, it's a tough division. But you look, as I say, teams don't retain it. They have, they won 3 of the last 4. So I like them. I think they're a good team, and I still like Cam Newton. So yeah, I'm going to take 10.
I'm going to take 9, I think. I think they're good. I think they're a good team. But, you mentioned Jordan Reed and the ticking time bomb. On the defensive side, that's Luke Kuechly. He's a wonderful talent, but I don't know, Dutton. He is brilliant. I don't think he should be playing football anymore. But that's just me, and there's a number that plays like that, and I think Jordan Reed may be one of them as well. Protect yourself, mate. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. This is not that important. I think McCaffrey makes a big difference. The offense is not as putrid and slow and stuttering as it has been. And they've got a 4-place schedule, which is pretty neat. As you can see, Bears, Jets, Bills, 49ers. Yes, thank you. A Jay Cutler Dolphins, which we don't know about. But I'm going to say 9-7. I think this is a good division this year. I really do. But no, not quite for me. Just the under. Speaking of teams who love an under at the moment, it wouldn't be the New Orleans Saints who you pick on the over for betting every single week. But what you should be picking is their under on number of wins every year, because the one big question is they have been 7-9, 4 out of the last 5 years. 2 questions on this. How the bloody hell did we not notice? And secondly, how did they get away with it?
Obviously there's still a fair amount of credit left in the bank from winning that Super Bowl 8 years ago. I mean, as I say, they are a bang average team. They're the poster child for home flat track bullies. Away, I mean, they score points. They always have. But since they had something of a controversial defensive coordinator who was prepared to reward his players for inflicting grievous bodily harm on opposition players in exchange for money, they've not been good defensively. Whether that's personnel, because let's be honest, they were coached by one of the Ryans. And we saw how well that worked.
The bad Ryan, no, don't they?
The bad Ryan.
The bad Ryan.
They have to score 35 points every week because the defense is horrific. And ultimately, you can probably do that most weeks in a dome with a Hall of Fame Drew Brees at quarterback. But away from home, it's not going to fly.
7 times a quarterback has thrown for 5,000 yards. 5 times that's been Drew Brees. And he failed a medical in Miami, and Nick Saban decided not to pull the trigger. That's Nick Saban, multiple college championship coach for Alabama. Not in Miami anymore, as they lose their quarterback who no one believed in, to get Jay Cutler, who everybody knows about. While Drew Brees just plays another season where he's, not injured, and thrown for 5,000 yards and randomly picking one 7th-round draft pick of his choosing for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, because that's what they do every year. The problem is with that, Dutton, is that's not the issue, and it never has been. The issue is they can't stop anyone. Do you know the last time they stopped anyone? They won the effing Super Bowl. That wasn't last week. I believe it was 2010.
That was also the last season. It was 2009-10, yeah. 2009 season, 2010 Super Bowl. That was also the last season they finished in the top 10 in terms of rushing attempts. Who knew?
Yeah. I love Drew Brees. He's brilliant.
Take something off his plate, for Christ's sake.
Exactly. Just give him a hand. You know, okay, you've won your Super Bowl, but let the GM concentrate, you know, on the Saints, not the New Orleans Pelicans. It's not difficult. Give him his job. Don't I mentioned the 7th-round draft pick who will go for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns? My question is there one of them who's going to be the fancy darling, or is it someone else?
Hello, darling.
Well, obviously, Michael Thomas is a first-round draft pick, I think. He put historic numbers up for a rookie. I think it was the most receptions by a rookie, or certainly top 5 or 6. He showed immediate chemistry with Drew Brees. But it's Brees who's the fancy darling. It's, as I say, let's not overthink this. You know what you're going to get from Drew Brees. He's going to be up there in passing yards. He's going to be up there in touchdowns. He doesn't throw many interceptions, although they have actually been on the rise the last few years, but ultimately that's because he's having to force things. Don't love his ADP, but if you were going to take a quarterback in the first 5 rounds, he'd be one of the few I'd accept it for.
We just talked about 5,000 yards, so, you know, accept it or not, it's a lot of points. You can't pick the defense, Dutton, but I'm interested. Okay, maybe you can. I'm interested in the fancy loser for the New Orleans Saints.
Brandon Coleman, stop trying to make it happen. It's never gonna. 6'6", could be a red zone threat. Could be. Could also be a colossal waste of time. May as well have a Belisha Beacon out there. I think they've got Ted Ginn, who's he's a deep threat home run hitter. I don't think he's going to get much as many targets as you'd think, because they've got Willie Snead, they've got Michael Thomas, they've got Kobe Fleener, and they've also got the running backs who can be involved in the passing game. Not you, Adrian, but Kamara and Mark Ingram have shown they've got some chops in the passing game. No, Adrian, go away. You're not getting 500 receiving yards. You're talking waffle. You've had one good pass-catching season, that was with Brett Favre, when you were a lot younger and had your original knees. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring offense, but the ones you hang your hat on are Brees, Thomas, Snead to an extent. Don't really worry about the others. The others will chip in.
Over-under, Dutton, is 8.5. Home games against the Pats, the Lions, the Bears, the Washington semi-professional football team, and the New York semi-professional Jets. Road games against the Vikings, the Dolphins, the Packers, the Bills, and the Rams. Packers and Bills is late October, early November for people scheduling quirks, looking at weather. Over-under is 8.5.
Under
7 and 9 for me, don't I? I'm staring at the same season over and over again. I'm wondering, why did we always talk about Jeff Fisher and not talk about Sean Payton?
Well, they've both in the past have had coaching stints with the Eagles, so there is that link. They've had some offensive losses. I mean, their offensive line, Max Unger's hurt. They've lost Teron Armstead. They're having to put Ryan Ramczyk in. The defense still isn't good enough. And, it's Dennis Allen, I'm sure, is a lovely man. He's nice to old ladies and kind to kiddies, but he just doesn't inspire me as a defensive coach because he looks dull. He literally looks like, Dennis, any chance we can stop these? Yeah, we'll give that a go. They're not good enough. And it may be that Sean Payton's just been there too long. But, he's another one. If he were to leave, he'd be unemployed quicker than it would take me to finish this sentence. But I just think I'm trying to think of it. They are the 96 to 1999 Newcastle United of the NFL. My God, they're exciting, but they're crap.
Yeah. I may use an analogy in a show that will be posted by another company stating that they are Liverpool, which is not something I was proud to say. I'm going to say 7 and 9 because that's what they do. But now, Dutton, really, after talking about Tennessee, this could be the main event. And
Sorry, Daggers.
Sorry, Daggers. It's about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dutton. And the one big thing is, it's an odd year, Dutton. Do we believe again in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yes.
Yes.
They've got a great. It's on paper. They've got a bloody good offense, minus establishment of what the running game is actually going to look like. But they've got Mike Evans, who's an absolute machine. Who I only saw watch on Hard Knocks the first episode. My God, he's huge.
He's massive.
I did not realise how big he actually was.
Massive.
But and I don't just mean tall. I mean literally. He's two with me, and I'm ample at the moment. Jameis, I mean, he just loves playing. I think he can't get over he got this job. You watch him on Hard Knocks, and he takes things personally. You sort of like did you see the first episode?
I haven't watched it yet. It's on the queue.
He threw an interception in practice, and Dirk Cotter chewed him out. And I thought he was going to burst into tears because it's like. Clearly, Winston adheres to the practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So he did something bad, knew it was bad, didn't need Dirk Cotter in his face, but he got it. But he shook it off and then went back and commanded the huddle.
But I think
he is a genuine leader. I love him.
I think what I like about Jameis Winston, and we talked about Tom Savage, Scott Tolzien, they are afraid to lose. They're afraid of the interception. They're afraid of the bad play. You can't be afraid of that play because that play stops you from making the big play. So if you don't make that throw, you are Sam Bradford. You're throwing 5 yards here and there, and you've got 70% completion, bravo, but you haven't gone anywhere. Jameis Winston is not afraid to lose, and that's a good thing, and you should embrace that because you've got to be, not gung-ho to the fact that you're, kamikaze, but you've got to be able to make throws and do things that sometimes have risk with them. Deshaun Jackson is a fantastic pick-up for this team. He was at you, he was brilliant. He was at us, he was brilliant. He'll be at them and he'll be brilliant. Can you keep him on the field? I don't know. But when he's on the field, bloody hell, he'll probably get you 4 touches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Because that's what Deshaun Jackson does. And as we said, much with the Julio last year, extra pieces, OJ Howard and Deshaun Jackson, it spreads the field and allows space for Mike Evans, and the job for Jameis Winston is to get Mike Evans the ball as much as possible. That's what they should be doing, and that's what all the other complementary pieces should be there for, to make the defense think that it's not always going to Evans. Evans will get less targets, but there'll be better targets, and that means you won't lose that many fantasy points.
I think I saw a video. I think it was a commencement ceremony speech that Denzel Washington was giving, and the phrase that he used was, "Don't be afraid to fail big." No, have dreams, make them goals. Don't be afraid of them. It's what you said. If you're afraid that if you throw it more than 5 yards, it's going to go back the other way, you'll never throw it.
No.
And, basically, congratulations. Completion percentage record. You're thrown for 3,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. Ain't going to pay any bills. If you, it comes back to something, that I would say, one of the coaches that I always loved, Don Coryell. The basic tenet of the Air Coryell system, which for, the layman basically it was one of the first pass-heavy offenses of the modern era, was, as a quarterback, you don't give a damn if you throw an incompletion. The same has to be true of an interception. Obviously, it's going to be annoying, because especially where it happens.
Yeah. Go
back and get it. Don't get it this time. Don't get it the next time. And he's got that. It's the confidence of, I can put the ball in there. And, 1 in 3 he will, and the other 2 he'll look stupid. But that one, not being funny, Everyone says that he's the next coming of Ben Roethlisberger because he's big, he's got the stature. Favre.
Yeah, it's Favre-esque in the way he plays, on. And he's got a lot of weapons, don't he? And the question is, which one of them weapons is going to be his fancy darling?
Hello, darling.
Well, we've talked about him. It's a quality of targets. We know how good he is in the red zone. We know he scores touchdowns for fun. Big Mike Evans. He's. Some people are questioning whether you should take him in the first round. Don't overthink things. If you can't get the big shots at the top, your Lev Bell, your David Johnson, your Julio, your Odell, your AJ Green, don't try and be clever. Take someone who's going to score you double-digit touchdowns and be good for at least 10 targets a week. Mike Evans for me all day.
A lot of I couldn't agree more. I love Mike Evans. Think he's brilliant. And you're in that snake draft. Get him on the. You got if you're 12, 13. You can get two. Then if Mike Evans won them, you got to bite your hand off. For every time we talk about the darlings, unfortunately, although we love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, there has to be a fancy loser, and I'm interested in who you think it is.
I don't think, again, it's not a loser in terms of a talent thing. It's more of an opportunity thing. And we have to remember that rookie tight ends don't really fly in the NFL that very often. So O.J. Howard is being aggressively taken in drafts. Listen to what the team are telling you. Cameron Brate is not going away. Now, Cameron Brate's not great. He's a slot receiver. He's not a great tight end. O.J. Howard is a rookie and is a fantastic run blocker. That's what will get him on the field. Block, then catch. Then next year, block and catch. But for me, he's getting taken far too high for someone who, as I say, isn't even at the top of the depth chart in his own team.
Over under Dutton, for those people who like making money and listen to me and Dutton, is 8.5. Home games against the Bears, the Giants, the Pats, the Jets and the Lions. Yes, that was right, the Bears and the Jets. Road games against the Dolphins, the Vikings, which is in September, the Cards, the Bills, which is October, and the Packers, which is in December and should be noted. 8.5 is the number, Dutton.
Over.
Dutton, it's 11.5, same as the Tennessee Titans. I'm telling you, the T's in the South are going to take it, and I love this team. And Daggers is going to go absolutely spare when he finds out. But I think they win the NFC South.
The problem I had, I did say, that if I could change one thing about the Titans to be a better coach, I hate the uniforms.
I hate the uniform, yeah.
I can't truly embrace a team with digital numbers on their back.
Yeah, they are pretty bad.
They're horrible.
But they're an over, though, right?
Yeah.
You see them in the playoffs?
Yes.
Did he win the division?
It's going to be a toss-up between them and Carolina, but I think they both get through.
Okay. And you got Tennessee winning the AFC South?
Yes.
Okay. This has been our South preview. I believe that that leaves us just with the West next week. It probably will be next week, because I haven't got any holidays and don't think you have. If you like what we say and how we say it, please subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow us on Twitter. Dutton is at ndutton13. I am at Mainz7. Together, combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. As we always say, it's a combined Twitter account, but it's me tweeting as the grammar and spelling is horrific. Neil, any last things before we go?
Best wishes to friend of the show, Chris Wessling, who has beaten the Big C, but did have a final surgery today to make sure that everything is gone. And he will be away from the game for a while, but our thoughts are with him, and hopefully when he's fully recovered, we can get him back on to chat some common sense with us.
Absolutely, Dutton. I couldn't agree with you more. Great news for Chris. Hope his surgery is going well, probably as we speak. And yeah, another one in the win column, so to speak, Dutton.
Absolutely.
And on that note, these two top guys are well and truly out.